Three witnesses in and the alleged lookout man in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case. That's Muzi Sibiya calls it a day. Hello and welcome to Inside the Courtroom, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial rep. I am Linda Mnisi and we're coming to you live from our Randburg studios in Johannesburg. Remember, we love hearing from you. So this week we will be breaking down the case of the alleged lookout man, Muzi Sibiya, and we want you to join the conversation and tell us exactly what you make of his version. So, as always, we have our poll question where you can cast your vote. And this week, we want to know what your thoughts are. You've got three options that are on your screen right now. The first one being it's credible. The second one, hard to believe. And third one, time will tell. Scan the QR code on your screen and start voting. You can also tweet us on our social media platform, X, that's at Newzroom 405. You can also comment on our Facebook page and we'll make sure to read all of those comments. But you can also give us a call or send us a WhatsApp message. So we'll be tracking this poll question throughout the program. All right, so we start here. For today's program, we'll be joined by legal analysts, that's Sibongiseni Gunene, as well as Mpumelelo Zigalala, who'll be joining us via our video link. While in studio, we'll be joined by our usual commentators who follow the case quite closely. Yotoko Mabilane is following those who believe that the 5 accused men are the ones that, in fact, are guilty for the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. While we also have Bongani Masuku, who's on the other side, who believes that, in fact, the 5 men accused are basically not the one. But we begin here. Before Muzi Sibiya took the stand on the 13th of October 2025, a version had already been put to the state witness, that's Constable Sizwe Zungu. This witness had placed Sibiya and his co-accused at the Hostel, what is labeled by the state as a gathering point where the murder of soccer star Senzo Meyiwa was allegedly planned. Now, this is what his former lawyer put to the witness.
Till March 2013, he was staying at Hostel at Basu 20 section, but when he lost employment in March 2013, he returned home and stayed home until he returned again to stay with his uncle in Tembisa in 2015.
Is that
the question or is that the statement? I want you to comment on that.
I wouldn't know where he was working when he lost his employment. We have never discussed that.
The basis of that proposition to you is essentially this, that since March 2013, he's never returned to Johannesburg or Gauteng until 2015.
I saw him in Foster's. I was with him, drank beer with him, and I'm the one who dropped him.
Now, this version had already been put to test by the state through the records of the National Traffic Information System and bank records. Now, when Sibiya took the stand, he gave the court a sequence of events linked to his arrest in the murder of the footballer. Now, as a foundation to his testimony, he told the court about how, contrary to the state's version, he was first detained in 2019, assaulted and questioned about the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. He was again arrested on the 30th of May 2020 by the team investigating the murder case, and this time questioned while another officer was writing down and later asked him to sign. The court also heard how on the 5th of June 2020, he was allegedly instructed to point out 2 locations during which photos were taken. He subsequently made his first court appearance on the 27th of October 2020 after being charged for the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. Now, in light of these details, he was then in cross-examination asked about where he was on the day that Meyiwa was killed.
Where were you on the 26th of October 2014?
Even though I cannot remember the exact place as to where I was on the 26th of October during the year 2014. However, I spent most of my time during the year 2017 being at home. When I get just a portion of time or a small period of time, I would therefore come to Gauteng and to do something. Then after that, I would return back home.
Now, going through his initial version in granular detail, the state highlighted how his version seemed to change.
The basis of that proposition to you essentially is this, that since March 2013, he has never returned to Johannesburg or Gauteng until 2015.
Mina 2013 bangiphelelwa umsebenzi ngiye ngahamba ngayohlala ekhaya.
When I lost my employment in 2013, I went to go stay at home.
Ukubuya kwami ukuzohlala eGoli ngibuye ngo2015.
And returning to Johannesburg, I returned again in 2015.
So ubaba Msipiti uqinisile mina ukushiya iGoli ngihambe ngiyohlala ekhaya 2013 ngihamba ngayohlala ekhaya 2015 ngabuya ngazohlala eGoli.
Yes, Mr. Ramsipidi was correct to say that I left Johannesburg for home in 2013 and then returned back again to Johannesburg in 2015.
Uma kwenzekile ngeza eGoli ngoba bengihlala ekhaya nje bekwenzeka ngize ngizolukwenza lento engizoyenza la eGoli ngibuyele ekhaya. Kufana nomama ngihlala lapha eGoli ngiyasuka ngelinye ilanga ngihamba ngiye ekhaya ngihlala la eGoli ngihambe ngiye ekhaya ngibuye ngizohlala eGoli.
And if it happened that I came to Johannesburg, it would be for reasons or coming here to do whatever that I have to do and go back home in the same breath that when I'm staying here in Johannesburg, I would go home and do other things.
Now, as indicated earlier, I'm joined by panelists, and for this week to unpack, in fact, the Muzi Sibiya's case. So, gentlemen in studio, joining me now is Mabelane, as well as Bongani Masuku. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. Muzi Sibiya has wrapped up his case. Very, very interesting, Bongani. I'll start with you, because you are part of the team that says, in fact, these guys are not the ones. Going into his testimony, I want to know, as somebody who watches the case very closely, what were your expectations?
In terms of Muzi Sibiya's case?
Yes.
Yeah, I expected him to bring his witnesses, obviously, as well as somehow I thought he will come back and finish something in terms of testifying. I thought he will come back and say something, because remember that the last time we heard him was, if I'm not mistaken, was a trial within a trial. So I was expecting him to come back, but I also was told that it is at the discretion of the lawyer or of the defense whether you want him on the box or not. So those are some of the expectations from him, but in terms of the witnesses that were called, I'm happy.
You're happy. So in terms of his testimony, I want you to take us into detail about what exactly it is that you wanted him to say. What is it that you wanted to hear from him?
I would have loved to hear him speaking about his own experience, and then a bit of details, because during the trial within a trial, he was somehow limited. He couldn't say some of the stuff because it was limited to trial within a trial.
Yeah.
So I did not necessarily have exact expectation as to, I'm expecting him to say 1, 2, 3. But I was like, okay, maybe they will come and expand on some of the things, some of the matters, and then bring in the witnesses. But seeing their defense, I was like, okay, still I'm happy.
All right. And for you, Babelade?
Yeah, good afternoon. The Muzi Sibiya has closed its case.
Yeah.
And the question that we must ask is, how positioned is he compared to after the trial within a trial?
Yeah.
I think he is worse off than after the trial within a trial, because there are few credibility issues that has come to light. He has added on his version again. The third version in terms of how he met Zungu was set now. So I think when you compare and look to where Muzi was before the trial or after the trial, within a trial, compared to now, he is worse off. And we know, what did he say to reverse the confessions that Rata said they are admitted as evidence before court until the new evidence emerged that makes me to think otherwise. So there is no evidence that Muzi brought that will reverse the decision that the court has made with regards to the confession and the pointing out before the court.
Yeah, let me bring in my guests now who are joining us via the video link. And I have with me Subongiseni Gunene, who's a legal analyst, as well as Mpumelelo Zikalala. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. I'll start with you, Subongiseni. You are not just an analyst for us, but you are also one of the avid watchers of this case. And Mabelani here in studio talks to me about his version and how, it seems to have developed when it comes to Constable Sizwe Zungu. But the main focus that I want us to look at now is where he was on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. I played at the beginning of the show a clip that was from his former lawyer, which is something that he faced questions about. Let's talk about the development of that particular version around where exactly he was on the day that the footballer was killed.
Good afternoon, Linda, as well as my learned friend, Mr. Zikalala, and the gentleman on the studio, and your viewers at home. Remember, Muzi's defense is that of an alibi, right? And being an alibi has to be clear and concise that, well, you can detach this person from the crime scene or the specific area wherein the incident took place. He has told this court that he was in KZN at the time of the incident, or he left Johannesburg in 2015 until March in 2015, right? And at some point, he has to come to Johannesburg or Hostel, just to be precise. So that alibi, it has to be corroborated by some of other witnesses, even if maybe there's some scientific evidence like bank records or whatever. But then here, this is the problem we are facing insofar as the alibi is concerned. He said he was in KZN, and the state then brought evidence in the form of bank records and cell phone evidence, and there was also evidence that was coming from the traffic department, also direct evidence being that of Constable Zungu. So we do not have any witness other than him who then came to court and testified to the effect that, well, on this particular day or this week preceding the incident, I was with Muzi Sibiya at Wanongoma or Ulundu, wherever that he was in KZN. So we only have him. Suppose that the evidence wherein he was trying just to strengthen his alibi about when he was rebutting the evidence of the state, the bank report, he mentioned some other individuals, being that of Mbali, who was using the card. So you see, now we have an open version. In fact, the evidence about Mbali, nobody came as Mbali and to confirm that on this day, yes, I am the one who was using these bank cards, and this is Muzi's cards, and at some point we exchanged the cards on these days and this day. We don't have that evidence in court. The court is only has a version that has been thrown on the air, which has not been corroborated by any witness insofar as those transactions were happening.
Yeah, and I want to come to you, Mpumelelo, in light of Subongiseni's response there in relation to his defense of an alibi, and he raises the point of, having evidence to support the alibi. Talk to us about that.
Greetings to you, to the gentlemen in the studio, and also to the viewers at home. Well, you see, when you come up with a particular defense, you need to come up with collaborative evidence which is going to assist you. That's this in a similar fashion in which the state is done. So if you are saying I was at Longom on that day, I wasn't here, then you're going to say, look at my cell phone, look at where the towers in which it is pulling from, which is nowhere near Johannesburg. Second part here, the people that I was with on that day, even if I've gone to Johannesburg on a frequent basis, here's the reason why, and this is the justification for more doing that. If you don't do that, then you put yourself in a position in which the only version which is probable, which is believable, is that has been provided by the state, and it's going to assist the state in getting that guilty verdict in which it is looking for. For him, it was even much worse off, because there are two things in which he needed to deal with. The other one is where were you on the day of the event? Provide us with the collaborative evidence. But another more important one is fighting this confession which has been taken and has been accepted by the court. So the court has stated, on face value, accepting what the confession is about. So what you needed to do as accused number one is to deal with the manner in which that confession was taken, not only through your evidence alone, because you've provided your evidence earlier, even though it wasn't rejected, but that it wasn't believed or was not enough to convince the court that it must change its mind. So you need to find other collaborative evidence. Call that initial lawyer that first represented you, even if he's not there. Call someone who was part of his office who was there on the day. Call the policemen that were there. Call even your family to say, this is how we wanted this matter to be done. However, it wasn't so. As it stands now, there are a lot of loopholes that you are supposed to close. There are lots of loopholes that you could have opened on which, as he has closed his evidence, he hasn't even touched on them. And it may leave an impression on the court to say, I'm more inclined to believe the state than to believe the defense.
Yeah, and I mean, as a defense strategy, when you decide to go with the defense of an alibi, surely these are things that they would have considered. How much room do you think Mpumelelo Zikalala they had in maneuvering this kind of evidence that the state has brought?
Well, remember that you have a pre-trial conference. That's where you get to all your statements. So even the movements, the cell phone evidence would be obtained. You'll then be able to say, how can we fight with this evidence that has been provided? Or what is it that you can provide which is going to go contrary? If you're able to do that, then you're in home ground. But if you can't, find other evidence which is going to be able to assist you. And when you're preparing your witnesses, you have to prepare them before the trial actually starts. So when you are standing up within the pre-trial, you're going to say, I have 7 witnesses, because you've gone through the cell phone records, you've gone through the tracker records, the confession has been provided to you. So each statement that will appear in the docket, you have a list of witnesses which is going to collaborate or go contra what the statement is saying. So it is going to be able to prove what you've been stating. If you don't have that, change your strategy from the start, because it then means it's not going to be believable. What the court is looking for is very simple. Tell me where you were, and then find me independent collaborative evidence which is going to collaborate what has been stated. Then I'll be more inclined to believe you. If you don't do that, if you muddy the waters by checking how the investigation was done, trying to prove that individuals were called at different times, that is not going to assist your case. What would assist your case is there evidence that proves that you were not there on the day? Is there an alibi which is supported by independent evidence? If there is, we may be inclined to believe.
Bongani, I see you're itching to respond to this. What is your response to that? What do you make of what our analysts have said?
Mr. Zikalala,
yeah.
He mentioned the fact that there's pre-trial conference, and he mentioned all of these things, nice things, ne?
Yeah.
But we know that so far as the Senzo Meyiwa trial is concerned, none of those things happened. In fact, you will remember that Advocate Mnisi even look, at some point he suggested that, guys, we've got a problem here. Information is coming in drips and drops. He's even said that otherwise this would have been a train that is moving from Joburg straight to Durban without having to stop or having to experience some stop and goes. You'll remember that. So he was complaining that information is coming like this and it is becoming extremely difficult to prepare for this trial. So I think somehow, when we come to the end of this case, we will have to bear in mind that this case was, look, the preparation towards this case, things were done a little bit different than the norm. We have seen the Thabo Baxter, the Kate Matlala, what. You have seen things are done exactly the way Mr. Zikalala Ashungakon, but not in this case. So there are quite a number of things that are, for me, are justifiable so far as some will say it's a shortcoming from the defense, of which I don't believe so, but I will say some of the things are justifiable. How do you prepare in a short space of time and then you have a smooth strategy? The late advocate Mngomezulu even complained about that I want to prepare. At some point he had to ask so many adjournment because it was difficult for them to prepare.
I see you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head because we seem to forget where this case comes from. What my brother is saying is not entirely true because the case started with Advocate Defo and Mshololo. And when they were part of the case, while the case was running, there was an introduction of the other lawyers to represent the other accused, especially after Tobane left. That's when Mnisi and all guys came to be part of the team. But then they never requested much time to prepare. They said they were ready. Mngomezulu that he's talking about, when he was asked, what much time do you need? He said, I've been watching this case from YouTube. And the court said, no, we don't rely on YouTube. Do you need to read the transcripts to familiarize yourself with the case? He said, no, my lord, I'm ready. So they never requested time. Then who do you blame? Because they have got the right to request time. And in cases where they needed further preparation, they have requested time to say, give us a time. Mnisi was given months to prepare to represent accused number one when he was always in court. So time has never been an issue.
Yeah, and Sibongiseni, you know, these gentlemen are debating about the issue of time. And I'm interested to find out, because in this particular point of our discussion, we're focusing primarily on what would have been Muzi Sibiya's version. How would he then have been prejudiced if, of course, it's something that would have fallen within his personal knowledge, where he was, and most importantly, because this question will come. Whether witness statements came late or early, this is information that would have fallen in his personal knowledge.
Yes, you are correct, Linda. I hear the gentlemen, they are talking about preparation and time being of the essence in this matter, right? What happened when a trial has to be conducted? Well, there is a pre-trial stage. In this matter, there was a pre-trial. I remember when the matter was transferred from Hostel, it was transferred for pre-trial. Unfortunately, then, the current lawyers who then are involved now in this matter were not there during the pre-trial stage. So that is where then there is an exchange of these documents. You know which evidence the state is relying on, because the state is going to disclose the docket to you. And the content of the docket thereof will have all the statements, amongst others. It also the confession that is alleged to be made by Muzi. Then it was there, the docket, in the inception of this matter. So then at the time when Mr. Mnisi, as well as Ramsipile and Ngomezulu and the rest, took over the matter, suppose it, then they should have read the docket and know what is contained in the docket, and they know that there is a confession, their statements, and which type of witnesses then they need to come to collaborate Muzi's evidence. Should he then take the stand, or exactly that is what is expected. Unfortunately, this is what has happened in this matter. They relied on the witnesses which are from the state side, other than having just independent witnesses, other than the one who were arraigned by the state, which is the unfortunate part. Then you cannot prepare your case anticipating that maybe one of the witnesses of the state is going to turn around and be a witness. Then you are just running a risk there, because you don't know if then this witness turn around and then is he going to give a proper version insofar as collaboration is concerned. This is what has happened in these witnesses they call. Those witnesses, they've never come to this court to try and confirm or collaborate Muzi's case. The only thing that they did, it was to plead their own case. Unfortunately, they were not standing trial. But when they were testifying in a sense that they are pleading their case. This is what has happened when I was taken by the police. This is what has happened when I was arrested. This is what has happened in this case. They've never said anything insofar as Muzi's alibi, that on this day, Muzi was here. On this day, I was with Muzi, and Muzi is not involved in this matter. They are not saying anything to that effect. They are only pleading their own cases.
Yeah. All right. So I want us to take a quick ad break while we think about what we're going to say. I see Bongani is itching again to get into this conversation, but more of this when we come back. Welcome back, and thank you for choosing to stay with us. You're still watching Inside the Courtroom, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial rep. Keep the conversation going on our social media platforms as well as by voting on our poll question. The QR code is going to be on the side of your screen where you can take your phone and start voting. And later we'll get into, the votes and how you voted regarding Muzi Sibiya's testimony. Now, the state tried to pin Sibiya to Gauteng in 2014 by going through his banking details. Sibiya said his bank cards would sometimes be with the mother of his child, Mbali Moyo. Let's take a look.
ATM cash withdrawal, ATM Foslores Naledi. Do you know anything about this transaction?
As I've already indicated that I would not be in a position to select transactions to say this one was done by myself or by Mbali.
All right, I'm still joined by my guest, Mpumelelo Zigalala Sibongiseni Gunene, as well as Mabilani in studio, as well as Bongani Masuku. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Mpumelelo, Sibongiseni was touching on the issue of Mbali being brought to confirm this alibi. And the expectation was that she would come and at least assist in giving the court insights as to under what circumstances and conditions she would be in possession of this bank card. But to our surprise, she was not called.
Definitely, and it goes back. Remember that for me, the system or the formulas all the same. I state something, I bring independent evidence to collaborate. If as the state said that there's a cell phone which was made, I bring the service provider to do the same. So it fell on accused number one to then say, if you say it was Mbali, you've made that ascension, bring Mbali to come in, who's then going to confirm and say, yes, I made these particular transactions. From the eyes and the ears of the court, it then says, yes, we've listened to you. This is independent evidence. It goes against what the state has said. So on that burden of proof, in which then rests on the state, you are then able to say, at least let me give this to the accused. I'm believing what the accused is stating. If you don't challenge that, if you don't place any evidence which is going to go against that, the judge has no choice than to believe what the state is saying. And then when calculating the evidence all accumulatively, you then come back and say, it is a state that has provided evidence which is much more probable to me. But let's also remember that information is not going to come to you or will be provided to you within the late stage. Hence why there are going to be postponements which are going to be required. The court will say, we need to finish this trial. However, because I need to be fair and protect your rights as the accused, I'm going to give you enough time. In some instances, you even find the judge saying, how much time do you need? I need to hear from you so that when we come back, we don't find ourselves in trouble. In that particular time, that's when you devise your strategy. That's when you think how many witnesses are going to be called. And also remember, when a witness goes into that witness book, you do not have to state the full case or your full version of what your defense is going to be. It is only in relation to that witness, meaning you can be able to prepare. If you haven't prepared, ask for time, but you can be able to state what the accused is going to reply or going to state when they are giving evidence. If you don't do that, unfortunately, you're only leaving the state's version, jotted down the state version on the assessment table, and your particular defense has not been there. And that can only lead to one thing. You may be found guilty of what you are being accused of.
All right, and I want us to take a look at another possible witness. Now, Muzi Sibiya's testimony has detailed extensively how he was assaulted from the time that he alleges he was first detained to the alleged confession statement. And back in 2022, while reporting on this case under Judge Maumela, you'd recall I traveled to KwaZulu-Natal, where I spoke to the father of accused number one, who also told us about the alleged assault. Let's take a look.
Umfana lo waboshwa konje kwakumhla kabani mama mhla ka 30 June mhla ka 30 June mhla ka 30 May yes waboshwa mhla ka 30 May inyanga yonke singamazi ukuthi ukuphi kwazothi ngo June angisazi ukuthi kwakumhla kabani bafika naye la ekhaya mabefika naye la uyangitshela ke ngoba bathi angiye kuye ngiyokhuluma naye uthi baba ngiboshiwe ngendlela ebengishaywa ngayo bengibulawa futhi bengitshela bethi bazongibulala njengomnye khona abambulala eFosloras amaphoyisa amdubula bathiwa yiba bambulala nami ke bazongibulala bemvalele ehlathini laba bemvalele khona ngendlela ngagcina ngivuma bethi angivumi ukuthi ngabulala Meyiwa kodwa okokuqala babethi akacindezele laba bazomnikeza 100,000 wathi ngalile baba ngoba ngiyazi into engingayivumela engathi ngizothi laba ngibacindezela ngani ngazini ngangikuphi wathi ke bathi bazongifaka icaleni sebengifakile ke ngigcine ngivuma istatement abangibhalise sona ngizivumile angivumi ngoba ngikwenzile ngivume ngoba ngivikela impilo.
All right, so that's Muzi Sibiya, the father of accused number 1, during an interview that I had with him back in 2022. Mabelani, this is a man that has become familiar with us in the case. He's often called Unomali during proceedings. He possibly would have been a witness to testify to allegations of assault, as he had heard from his son.
Yes. Like my brother Bumelelo mentioned, Muzi was faced with two things: confession and to lead evidence to rebut the confession or support his testimony that he was tortured. Muzi Sibiya is one such person who should have come as a witness before court to say, Muzi, I saw him, he was beaten, as he demonstrated, but he didn't come. And we know why he didn't come, because he's got his own issues. We know as part of the evidence, he has tried to pay people not for Muzi to go through criminal trials. Maybe that's the reason why he didn't come. And the second point, there were witnesses that were expecting for Muzi to support his alibi. Absalom Zungu was his witness. He didn't tell us where Muzi was. Came Usizwe Zungu Kwabini, he didn't tell us where Muzi was, and came Makoseng. All of them, they didn't tell us that Muzi was in KZN as per his alibi. So they really didn't assist him with anything before court.
Yeah, and Bongani, we know that at some point he testified about having been taken home, and his father says he indeed came home. The allegations of assault, his father knows them. And as somebody who supports, the accused, do you think this was a missed opportunity, perhaps?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I want to start from the two learned colleagues. If I was a lawyer, I would say my learned colleagues, but I'm not.
Yeah.
They are speaking about collaboration of evidence, right? And first of all, I think from what I've come to realize, lawyers have their own strategies, right? It differs from one to another. Personally, I still believe that the lawyers have their own strategies. They understand what they are trying to do. If you're looking at the late Advocate Mngomezulu, he had his own strategy, which was different from Advocate Mnisi. So I believe that it's not a missed opportunity for all the people that have not been called. So I cannot speak about procedure or what should have been done, because they are the ones with the LLB. I don't have that LLB. So the two can speak about that. Yeah. But I can only speak about what I saw.
Yeah.
Based on what my eyes and my ears have experienced or witnessed, they are saying there was never a collaboration of... guys, Absalom Zungu. Absalom Zungu paint a picture of Mr. Constable Zungu going to KZN, trying to plant people. He creates that picture, and Brigadier Bongani Keninda trying to get him to, accept the brown envelope. We move. You go to, Umakosonke, right? No, before Makosonke, you go to Kwabeni. Kwabeni paint a picture of him being taken, receiving a call from accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya, once he was in KZN. He arrives in Joburg. You know what happened in that hostel. So he was taken by police. You remember that he was somewhere at the police station, and from there, remember that he was given a bail that was never paid to either was never registered to either a police document or in court. You remember that? He was released through back doors, right? I think that creates a picture of people who does not follow the law as they acquire evidence. You go on to Makosonga, who comes in and create that same picture to say, I've been dealing with people who came and say, I raped somebody. If Mabelane is saying that we should believe other things that were said by them. Why are we not believing this one too? If he says that, we believe that they said this one lied, then believe this ones too when they told you that they were taken. Makosonke says it was taken somewhere around Fosloras, Matunen, where he was thoroughly marinated, right? So believe them too. Why are we choosing to believe this one but not this one?
Yeah, and quickly before we take an ad break, because we've run out of time for this segment, I want you to talk to us about how that will help Muzi Sibiya.
For me, I've actually come to see that, sometimes people can wear this beautiful uniform, men in blue uniform and women in blue uniform, but it doesn't mean that they follow the law. Some people, the manner in which they acquire evidence is not the right way. And we've seen cases in court, we've seen some cases being thrown out because of the manner in which the investigation was conducted. So in this case, they also testify about that to say the manner in which the investigation was conducted in this case, it was illegal.
All right, gentlemen, hang 10. Let's take another quick ad break. When we come back, we'll pick up on this point of Muzi Sibiya with our analyst. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back and thank you for choosing to stay with us. I did say that we will be engaging with you on our social media platforms. So I want us to take a look at what you've had to say so far before we continue with our guests in studio. So the first tweet coming up, and it says it's from J1, who says, "He who alleges must prove. The state must prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. Did the state do that? Alleged party host denies existence of the party. He was arrested to lie about the party. Muzi's evidence placed doubt of state's case." The next one is from Duba Non on social media platform X, and it says, "It's not even a version, it's the truth." All right, we move on to the next tweet, which essentially is the one that we read previously, but of course, these are people that believe that Muzi's evidence did cast a doubt. On our Facebook page, we've got Victor Mate, who says, 3 witnesses denied Constable Zungu's version, and those 3 were supposed to be his story, I think from where I'm standing. And then we also have Tuso Mulapi on Facebook, who says, "The state has not called anyone to support the statement of Constable Zungu." I don't know how true that is, but David Mutamai says, "No case here." Shamila Badoi said, "This case is a mess." All right, so we will continue with engaging with these conversations or these tweets and your messages that are coming through our social media platform. I want us to go back to our guests, our legal analysts, Sibongiseni Gunene, as well as Mpumelelo Zikalala. Before we took the ad break, Sibongiseni, we spoke about Muzi Sibiya, the father of Muzi Sibiya. He alleges his son was assaulted to a point where he says his son was promised 100,000 rands to implicate certain people. Some of the details that normally told us as Newzroom Afrika, and I know this is outside of court proceedings, so they don't really have an impact on what is happening in court. But some of the things that he told us are things that were never said in court by Muzi Sibiya.
Yes.
All right, we seem to have technical issues with Sibongiseni, and I'll pass that question to you, Mpumelelo. While we try to re-establish the link with Sibongiseni, these are things that we never got to hear from Muzi Sibiya himself, allegations of, funds and in that regard for implicating certain people. As far as I know, from his version, he says, the Colonel Mboto, who I believe was taking his statement in Diepkloof, was writing. He was asked questions, he was writing down, and he was asked to sign that particular statement.
You see, that's the collaborative evidence which is required. You then go back and say, let me call my father, who's going to be able to establish and deal with the issue of the confession. He's going to deal with my demeanor. How did I look? Was I still okay, or was I hurt? in terms of that there were fists that were involved in me getting the statement. You then come back and say, let me get the person who was writing the statement. Either they do so voluntarily or I subpoena them. And you ask them this question, did I write every single word in the statement or was I told to sign? At what point was I told to sign? After being assaulted or not being assaulted? Is there anyone that visited me while I was in prison at that time so that they can collaborate to say, yes, the left eye was swollen, the lower lip was split due to him being assaulted. That's the type of collaborative that you come to and you deal with it. Now, in any litigation, especially criminal one, you deal with what has been provided at the top because those are the elements or the ingredients which are going to be used by the judge in terms of evaluating your innocence or guilt. The manner in which it was obtained is something that you do secondary, unless if you want to eliminate it from the top to say, this is evidence that was obtained illegally, evidence which is obtained contrary to what our Constitution and Criminal Procedure Act is saying, I want to remove it completely. That's the intention of you doing that. But if you want to add a few spices here and there to say, look at the manner in which the police were conducting themselves, then deal with the core issues first before you go to that. Because at the end of the day, what's going to matter the most is what evidence has been provided. Is it evidence which is enough to put you under the bus? If the answer is yes, then you must make sure that you deal with it. Now, in the case, the father would have been the most important witness who would have testified on behalf of their son to say, yes, we may be related, but this is what I'm relaying to him. I'm also going to add a few things. Add the type of hardships that you went through, not knowing what was happening with our son, and also add how we saw them when we first met him. It makes the case much more probable and much more believable when the court has got to hear to say, maybe he's correct. Maybe there was there was an assault process that took place there. Here's an independent witness who is the father, that may be related, but he's providing evidence in which we seem to believe.
Yeah, and I want us to go now to the evidence of the Zungus, because we know the evidence of Sifiso Gwabini Zungu as well as Makosonke Zungu seems to largely center around the events that took place between 2015 and 19, and this is linked to what would be deemed a critical state witness, that's a Constable Sizwe Zungu. Now, Gwabini is the alleged host of the Hostel gathering, while Makosonke Zungu is said to have attended with Constable Sizwe Zungu. So Constable Zungu, with this very important element, was cross-examined, but also these are witnesses that seem to suggest that perhaps some of the details that are being relayed by Constable Sizwe Zungu are events that took place after 2014. I want us to take a listen to the cross-examination of Makosonke Zungu around, what the state deems inconsistencies between Muzi Sibiya, in fact, Gwabini himself, rather, as well as Makosonke Zungu. Let's take a listen.
The statement is, from 1998, he saw him again in 2017, not in 2015, in your presence.
Hence, I am saying that I am not going to speak on behalf of Gwabini. I'm speaking about myself, and his memory is not my memory is not his memory. It's two different memories.
Sibongiseni, the issue around the prior planning, the events that happened at the hostel, we hear from Gwabini that the last time you had seen him was 1998 and would come back and see him in 2017. But the next person comes, that's Makosonke Zungu, says, in fact, in 2015, Gwabini had introduced me to this Constable Sizwe Zungu. And the state seemingly highlighting what would be inconsistencies. And I know we spoke about this last week. But when we look at, now that Muzi Sibiya has closed his case holistically, what does this mean versus the evidence of Constable Sizwe Zungu and some of the elements that the state also used in trying to prove that there was a gathering at the hostel in 2014?
Yes, Linda. I think a gathering is not much disputed. The only thing that has happened in this incident is the date or the year. Muzi and Gwabini, as well as Makosonke, they are confirming a gathering that took place, but However, that gathering does not have the rest of the accused. And then Constable Zungu then says the gathering did happen, and he confirms that he was with all the accused. This is the problem now. As to whether the version of Muzi, which then just surfaced now, when Constable Zungu is no longer in court, will it be taken as probable? The problem that is going to face is, at the time when Constable Zungu was in court, because this is something that is very crucial and he was testifying about it, why you never put it to him or mention to Constable Zungu that, hey, Constable Zungu, yes, I agree that there was a gathering that took place at the time I was with you, but not the rest of the accused. And such gathering took place in 2017. So now it looks like it's a version that is being tailored, that has been born out of nowhere, because somebody who then knows exactly that in 2014 was not there, it happens only in 2017. And mind you, this person, he keep on changing versions about knowing Constable Zungu. At some point, it was 2019, let alone Kwabin, who was supposed to come and collaborate, saying, and then also mention other things about knowing Zungu. So the only problem that we will face is that why it was never put to Constable Zungu to challenge it so that he can answer to this version. The court will then look at that version, that why you never put it to Zungu. It simply means that you are tailoring this version now.
Mm. And I want us to take a look at the questions that Makosonke Zungu was asked in relation to whether or not Muzi Sibiya would have known Makosonke Zungu, and it's in relation to the testimony around what happened when they met in 2017. Was there an introduction between accused number one as well as Constable Sizwe Zungu? Because you recall, Sibongiseni touches on the cross-examination of Constable Sizwe Zungu. Some of the statements that were put to him was whether or not the accused knew him. Take a look.
Did you then introduce Constable Zungu to accused number one? Thank you, Mr.
So according to how it happened, they knew each other from back then.
Prior to that day. Back then it means prior to that day.
Yes, because they grew up together back home. Sizwe, that is now Zwe, grew up in grandfather's house, and he left at some stage. I'm not certain whether it was in 98 when he left.
Accused number one told his court that on that day he did not know Constable Zungu in toto. I'm quoting Mr. Ramosipili, just on that in toto. That's what accused number one said. You are not here, I understand, but I'm telling you what he said.
All right, I want you gentlemen in studio to digest that while we take a quick ad break, because when we come back, we get into whether or not Muzi Sibiya knew Constable Sizwe Zungu in 2014, 2017, or whether they grew up together. So keep that in mind. Let's take a quick ad break. More on this when we come back. All right, welcome back, and thank you for choosing to stay with us. Let's check in with our poll question, and that's, of course, related to what we were asking you about what you make exactly of Muzi Sibiya's testimony. We have three options for you. The first one being it's credible, the second one hard to believe, and the third one being time will tell. So we already have some of your responses, 19% saying it's credible, 62% saying hard to believe, and only 19% of you saying time will tell. I want us to come back to the discussion that we were having around whether or not Constable Sizwe Zungu was known by Muzi Sibiya. It seems there again are issues of discrepancy.
Yes, it is indeed. However, you must know, and you know it as a matter of fact, because I have a friend who's a psychologist. They will tell you. In fact, I even asked a police officer when an incident has just happened. I couldn't describe the color of the car. I just missed it with just the color of the car. So you can never expect people to be as accurate as that, especially for an incident that has happened far back. But if you want me to wrap it up for you, I will tell you this. We have learned, there are two colleagues there who have LLB. I'm not going to contest what they are saying, but I'll tell you what I know. What I know, as a matter of fact, is the defense does not have to prove their case. It is the state that must prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. In conclusion, Timothy Omotoso is the perfect example. The judge there said the state did not prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. The judge even said that neither you, Omotoso, you can convince me that you are innocent. But because the state couldn't prove its case beyond reasonable doubt against you, I'm releasing you. On that alone, release the accused.
And just quickly, based on your response, it seems you believe that Muzi Sibiya did not mount a sufficient case, but he will not be judged on, the kind of case that he mounted.
My understanding is that they just took a strategy to say, listen, we don't have to take all these witnesses.
Do you believe it was enough?
Yes.
All right. Okay, let's
remember the aim was to prove doubt, and that's it.
Granted. Let's move to you, Mabelane. On Sizwe Zungu being known and what you make largely of the testimony, especially in light of the fact that there are also other issues related to Constable Sizwe Zungu when you talk about the alleged threats that may have happened in 2019, the calls there as well.
Yeah, Omotoso didn't have a confession. He is undermining the power of confession. With a confession, Muzi Sibiya is done by the mere fact of the confession is admitted. One, to answer your question, when Zungu took the testimony before court, Muzi said he doesn't know him in total. Totally, I don't know this guy. That's what he said. Later he came and said, no, in fact, my memory is coming back. I met this guy in 2015 in the company of Kwabini. He takes the stance. He says, no, in fact, I was wrong that I don't know him totally, that I met him in 2015. In fact, I met him in 2017. So he has given three versions. What is the court going to do there? The court obviously, the state is going to argue credibility to say this man cannot be trusted. And it's going to be a credibility issue against Muzi.
So Bongiseni, Mabelane raises issues of credibility, but Bongani also raises the question of onus, right? Onus lies on the state to prove beyond reasonable doubt. The question is whether or not Muzi Sibiya has cast doubt on the state's case.
Well, there is so many pieces of evidence that Muzi was supposed to attack to cut doubt. You can't just say Muzi has cast doubt to the state case because he called these witnesses to come and contradict the issue of the party. There's Sergeant Mpola, Telezi, Babazwane, and all those people who came to testify in this court. Then, in fact, those are pieces of evidence that I can mention so far, which then links try to build the state case. Well, the onus might be on the state to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt, but does not necessarily mean that because somebody says Kwabini, he met a Constable Zoom on this day, and then now there is a doubt. That's not true. Credibility, the issue of credibility, which has been mentioned by the other gentleman, is very crucial here because remember, the state does not care whether the statement of Makosonke is true or Kwabini is true. They are only saying to the courts, these witnesses are not believable. They are giving another evidence. They have a statement that they made. So these are two contesting versions. Muzi himself has so many versions that are problematic insofar as being corroborating. In fact, he mentioned 2017, 2019, and in total, all those things. Then now you have a problem about his credibility. So far as Zungu issue is concerned.
Yeah, and lastly, with you, Mpumelelo, do you think he mounted a strong defense to cast doubt on the state's case?
No, I don't think so. I think there are a lot of rebuttals that you should have done, which is the duty of the defense. Yes, the state has a duty to provide evidence beyond reasonable doubt, but once evidence has been provided, you must rebut that evidence through independent people or independent evidence which is going to come, collaborate what you are stating, but most importantly, make it probable. If you're going to provide that evidence and simply provide a bad denial and say, no, I wasn't there, no, it's not me, it's not going to assist you in your case. What will assist you though is credible evidence, independent evidence, one that can be collaborated. And once you've stated a statement and say there's someone who will be able to attest, bring that individual to the table so that the evidence will be evaluated.
All right, unfortunately, gentlemen, I would have loved to continue having this conversation, but we've run out of time. Thank you very much for your inputs. That's where we leave it at for this week. And on Monday, accused number 2, the alleged intruder, in fact, one of the alleged intruders, Bongani Ntanzi, will open his case and call his witnesses. And we will be back next week to tell you all about it. But until then, have a good Sunday afternoon.